The U.S. military has long held the #1 position in the world. However, they have also failed many times. Even at the present time, that #1 force is powerless against an opponent named Houthi. Who are they? And how powerful are they that even the U.S. Army has to give up? To understand who the Houthis are, we need to briefly talk about the religious, political, and social history of Yemen, a country located at the southern tip of the Arabian Peninsula. The first notable thing to know about Yemen is that the main religion of this country is Islam. The Muslim community is not unified, but is divided into two branches, Sunni and Shia, with different views. For centuries, most of Yemen had been under the control of the Zaydi Muslims, a small branch of Shia since the 740s. However, after the North Yemen Civil War in 1962, this order was changed. The Zaydis were left powerless and powerless. The central government was increasingly influenced by Sunni and often non-Arab forces. In this context, in the late 1980s, a Zaydi revival movement emerged in Shata province, claiming to be initiated by the Houthis. And it was from here that the force known as the Houthis was born. Initially, the participants focused solely on defending the identity and rights of the Zaydi community. But then, under the leadership of Hussein Badruddin al-Houthi, the movement quickly took on a political color. He denounced the then Yemeni president Ali Abdullah Saleh as a dictator who exploited the people. He was fiercely opposed to Saudi and American support for Saleh. The 2003 U.S. invasion of Iraq further radicalized the Houthis. Seeing this as an insult to the Muslim world and fearing that Yemen would become the second Iraq, the group officially adopted the slogan, "God is great, death to America, death to Israel, curse the Jews and victory to Islam" as its motto. By 2003, President Saleh had launched a series of military campaigns to destroy the Houthis. Just a year later, the Yemeni army successfully defeated Hussein and suppressed the Houthi rebellion in northern Yemen, especially in Sadr province. The Saudi army also supported these campaigns. With a larger force, the Yemeni-Saudi coalition could easily wipe out the Houthis. But the reality is quite the opposite, as they are the ones who have suffered repeated defeats. As a result, the Houthi movement has spread throughout Yemen, gaining such influence that they successfully captured the capital Sana'a in 2014. Since then, the force has taken control of about a third of Yemen's territory, including the strategic port of Hodeidah, a vital gateway to the Red Sea, along with most of the country's population. According to calculations, their army currently has more than 350,000 fighters, equipped with tanks, heavy artillery, fighter jets, and modern drone systems. Currently, the Houthi movement is considered a key member against the Master Resistance, an anti-Israel and anti-Western alliance, including Hamas and Hezbollah, forces accused by the U.S. of being backed by Iran. In the context of both Hamas and Hezbollah being weakened after conflicts in Gaza and Lebanon, the Houthis have emerged as the only member against the Master Resistance, not only maintaining their strength, but also increasing their influence. This force has participated in the conflict in Gaza through mistaken attacks on strategic shipping lanes in the Red Sea, as an act of support for the Palestinian people and the Hamas Islamist movement. In addition, they have also announced mistaken attacks on commercial vessels with connections to Israel, not only in the Gulf of Aden and the Arabian Sea, but also extending their range to the Indian Ocean and even the Mediterranean. These moves alone have made the United States consider the Houthis a serious threat to global maritime security, directly endangering its interests and those of its ally Israel. On March 4, 2025, the U.S. State Department officially designated the Houthis as a foreign terrorist organization. The decision was based on an executive order issued by President Donald Trump, arguing that the Houthis' military actions were endangering U.S. citizens and personnel in the Middle East, threatening their strategic partners in the region, as well as the stability of global trade flows. The U.S.'s actions were well-founded, as the attacks carried out by the Houthis had far-reaching effects on the world economy and global supply chains. Between November 2023 and early 2025, the Houthis carried out 174 attacks on U.S. entities and 145 on commercial entities after Israel launched its military campaign in Gaza. These attacks caused extensive damage to U.S. assets, forcing the country to launch a series of missile and drone interception campaigns. The most obvious impact was a sharp decline in maritime traffic through the Red Sea, a strategic shipping route for Europe and Asia. Before the conflict escalated, about 25,000 cargo ships passed through the area each year, but the number is now down to about 10,000. Some of these had to be rescheduled, and more than 75% involved the US or the UK, causing great damage to these countries. In response to those losses, they launched airstrikes against Yemen's capital as part of an effort to restore safety to the waterway, which carries about 15% of global trade. Tensions escalated further when on March 7, 2025, the current Houthi leader, Abdul Malik al-Houthi, issued an ultimatum. He warned that his forces would resume attacks against Israel in regional waters if Tel Aviv did not lift its blockade of humanitarian aid to Gaza within 4 days. The Houthi leader stressed that access to aid for Gazans was the minimum condition for a de-escalation of tensions. However, these warnings were ignored. Then, on the ultimatum deadline of March 11th, the Houthis announced the resumption of their campaign of attacks on Israeli-linked vessels operating in key shipping lanes such as the Red Sea, the Arabian Sea, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, and the Sea of Aden. The move officially ended a period of relative calm since the temporary ceasefire in Gaza in January. In addition to those immediate causes, the United States has a deeper reason to confront the Houthis in Yemen, to put pressure on Iran, which Washington considers its main rival in the Middle East. In the eyes of U.S. policymakers, the Houthis are not simply a local rebel force in Yemen, but an extension of Tehran. The connection between Iran and the Houthis has been monitored by Western intelligence agencies for many years. Tehran is accused of providing the Houthis with not only advanced weapons, but also financial support, military training, and strategic guidance through the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. The evidence is that much of the arsenal of both has many similarities, from ground-based ballistic missiles to military helicopters. In Washington's view, allowing the Houthis to maintain and expand their power means Iran continues to maintain an important lever in the southern Arabian Peninsula, where it can exert pressure on both global oil flows and Western trade corridors. The U.S. hopes that by inflicting damage on the Houthis, it can cut off Tehran's tentacles in the Middle East, isolating and weakening its influence. The nature of the confrontation with the Houthis goes far beyond a local conflict in Yemen or a simple maritime security issue. It is part of a larger strategic game in which the U.S. is seeking to tilt the balance of power in the Middle East in its favor and that of its close allies such as Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. However, it has not been an easy process. The U.S. and its allies have launched several military campaigns against the Houthis in Yemen, but have so far failed to defeat the armed group. There are many reasons for this. The first reason is that the Houthis are not a conventional rebel group. Many experts at the Center for Strategic and International Studies believe that this force has been able to conduct large-scale military operations, coordinating many types of modern weapons, thanks to the experience accumulated from more than a decade of fighting the Saudi-led coalition. Not only that, they also have significant support from Iran. The UAVs that Tehran provides to the Houthis, similar to those used by the Russian military in Ukraine, have become powerful tools for them to sabotage U.S. commercial shipping in the Red Sea, even attacking deep into the territory of Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Not only stopping at offensive weapons, this force can also deploy formidable air defense systems. They have shot down many UAVs of the U.S. Reaper process, a very modern high-altitude reconnaissance drone. The U.S. Central Command confirmed this incident. The Houthi air defense forces are not to be underestimated. Another factor that makes this force strong is its high ability to adapt to the combat environment. Yemen is a country with rugged terrain, with many high mountains, arid deserts, and crowded cities. The Houthis have exploited the terrain to its fullest to build a network of underground tunnels, a West Indies border, and hard-to-trace bases. In many cases, U.S.-led coalition airstrikes have failed to completely destroy a target because the enemy has had time to evacuate or split its forces before being attacked. This shows the Houthis' ability to adapt flexibly and tactically effectively. In addition, the U.S. is still having difficulty with this force, also stems from their own strategy. The U.S. has overwhelming military and economic advantages over the Houthi force. However, the threat of force from the world's strongest army is not enough to force the Houthi to stop attacks on ships in the Red Sea. According to a scholar writing on the National Interpret, this reflects the limitations of Washington's current military power projection. The expert believes that the U.S. is using a cheap war model, prioritizing low-cost military politics, using long-range weapons and drones, avoiding direct military landings in conflict zones, thereby minimizing unnecessary risks. However, this restraint makes opponents like the Houthis believe that the U.S. is not ready to act on a large scale, leading to them not feeling truly oppressed. This is the reason why the U.S. and its allies are continuously failing, and the next airstrikes are unlikely to achieve strategic results. In addition to the above reasons, another important factor that helps the Houthi forces not only stand firm, but also increase their influence in Yemen, is their ability to use the media to assert their legitimacy. The Houthis are rebels and proxy of Iran, as the U.S. and the coalition call them. The Houthis have portrayed themselves as a national resistance force, fighting against foreign aggression. This media strategy has helped them not only maintain support among the Yemeni people, but also significantly influence regional and international public opinion. Immediately after the US and UK airstrikes on military bases in Sana'a, Hodeidah, and Sad'a, the Houthis had their friendly TV channels broadcast images of injured children, destroyed residential areas, and circulated speeches calling for resistance. This had an immediate effect. The videos and messages of resistance were widely circulated on social media, creating a wave of support for the Houthis, fighting to defend their national independence against foreign invaders. This media effect overshadowed the legitimacy of the US-led campaign. According to an analysis by the Chatham House Institute of International Affairs, the US and UK airstrikes against the Houthis could be seen by the public in the region as an act of self-interest for the West, rather than as a defense of freedom of navigation, as the US claims. This situation is reminiscent of Vietnam's resistance against the US, when the image of people standing up against superior military power also created a wave of support around the world. The Houthis are also learning from that model. They not only need to win militarily, but more importantly, to delegitimize the enemy and bog down in a costly war that is not supported by public opinion at home and abroad. That is the strategy that a weaker force can make the most of, and the Houthis are doing it very well. In addition to the gradual loss of support from international public opinion, another factor that is weakening the determination of the US and its allies in confronting the Houthis is the increasing financial burden. Despite having the world's largest economy and a military force to back it, even for Washington, a prolonged and ineffective war is a concern. According to Business Insider's analysis, maintaining a fleet of warships, aircraft, and logistics forces in the Red Sea to deal with Houthi drone and missile attacks costs the U.S. hundreds of millions of dollars every month. The costs come not only from combat operations but also from logistics, fuel, weapons maintenance, and soldier salaries. A single SM-6 missile to intercept a target costs up to $4.3 million. Meanwhile, the Houthis only need to use a small UAV worth a few $1,000s to pressure the opponent to react. This has created a battle of attrition with the advantage completely belonging to the Houthis. Not only that, but also within the United States itself, there are signs of fatigue. Some senior lawmakers have questioned the administration about the effectiveness of the campaign in Yemen. In many hearings related to the issue in Yemen, Senator Rand Paul has repeatedly asked the question, are our interventions doing more harm than good? This situation reminds the United States of lessons from previous long wars such as Vietnam and Afghanistan, where they spent a lot of money but did not achieve results. Another serious problem is that not only do U.S. officials lack trust in each other, they also unintentionally endanger their own country. Specifically, Editor Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic magazine revealed that they were unexpectedly added to a chat group on the Signal application on March 13, 2025. This is where key figures in the Donald Trump administration gathered to discuss plans to attack the Houthi armed forces. The shocking revelations immediately sparked calls for a full investigation. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said this was one of the most serious military leaks he had ever seen. For the Houthis, it only further proved that the game was stacked against them. The longer the war drags on, the more it will cost the U.S. and its allies, both economically and strategically. This is not an easy problem to solve, given that the U.S. defense budget is being divided among many other fronts. In addition to financial factors, the U.S.-led coalition is having difficulty achieving maximum effectiveness in its campaigns against the Houthis due to complex internal conflicts. This not only undermines coordination, but also seriously affects the sustainability of military campaigns. First of all, the members of the U.S.-led coalition themselves have different levels of commitment. During the air campaign against the Houthis conducted by the United States and the United Kingdom in January 2024, other NATO countries kept their distance and did not directly participate. France, for example, although it has warships operating in the region, is only using them to protect commercial shipping and is not participating in the attack on the Houthis. This shows that even within NATO, not all members agree on how to approach the Yemen issue, leaving the alliance lacking the strategic cohesion needed to maintain sustained and effective pressure. At the regional level, the situation is even more complicated. Several Arab states, notably Oman, Qatar, and Iraq, remain neutral or even somewhat supportive of the Houthis due to religious and political factors. In 2018, a Qatari officer was arrested on suspicion of collaborating with the Houthis. Oman, which borders Yemen and has traditionally been neutral, has maintained diplomatic relations with the group and has acted as a mediator in peace negotiations. Iraq has also criticized U.S. airstrikes in Yemen, calling them a violation of regional sovereignty. Even Saudi Arabia, which has led the anti-Houthi coalition for nearly a decade, is cautious. Since 2022, Riyadh has chosen to negotiate peace with this force through intermediaries such as Oman and Iran. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud is looking to end his deep involvement in the conflict between the U.S. and the Houthis to focus on the economic reform plan Vision 2030. The U.S.'s airstrikes on the Houthis, while Riyadh is in dialogue with this group, have put Saudi Arabia in a difficult position, as they are both an ally of the U.S. and do not want to disrupt the peace process that the U.S. is promoting. All of the above factors show that the U.S. and its allies cannot build a unified front, both militarily and politically, to effectively confront the Houthis. Without coordination and consensus on goals and strategies, military campaigns can hardly create continuous and decisive pressure. This leads to a fatal weakness in the battle against a force like the Houthis, which is very united, has clear goals, and is strategically supported from the outside. In short, facing a superpower, the Houthis have shown that victory depends not only on the number of missiles or warships, but also on the ability to adapt, utilize the media, and exploit weaknesses in the opponent's strategy. While the U.S. and its allies are still hesitant and only rely on remote military intervention models, the Houthis have shown their tenacity and fierce resistance. Finding a way to subdue that power will be a very difficult problem for Washington. Note: this video content was compiled and translated into English by Ki Huyen Insights. If there are any incorrect translations, please forgive me. We welcome all comments in the comment section. Now goodbye, and see you again.